To Borgcast Animated Series 1.2 with Anne-Marie and Peter.
Hello! We are melting.
Yes.
Date stamp this, the first heat wave of the summer. Joyous.
Yeah. We've got some previously on Beyond the Farthest Star from Jeffrey Mark Hyman. I understand the utility of the life support belts for the production of the show, but I kind of hate them. Oh. They feel a little too advanced. It's no deal breaker though.
I mean, yes, they are kind of advanced. I mean, certainly on the basis they don't appear in any other show. So you just have to think that there was something downside to them that stopped them using it, some fault in them. So they cause piles for everybody over time or something. I don't know.
Or impotence.
Yes, possibly. Jeff also says, I enjoyed the speculation why they aren't used anymore. I suppose the major advantage of a bulky spacesuit is it doesn't suddenly disappear if a battery runs out while you're on the spacewalk.
That's true.
Uh-oh, charge is low.
Yeah.
Anyways, we looking today at More Tribbles, which is written by David Gerrold, most famous for writing The Trouble with Tribbles. He also did a rewrite on iMud and provided the story for the Cloudminders. He wrote this for the third season of TOS, but it was rejected by Fred Freiberger, along with another script we'll see come to life in the animated series. Freiberger didn't like Trouble With due to its comedic tone, so wasn't going to accept anything else, basically. Screw you, Freiberger. Trek can be funny when it wants to be.
Yes.
Gerald wrote a couple of episodes of The Real Ghostbusters, and thanks to working with JMS on that, wrote an episode of Babylon 5.
Oh!
And all links together. Sadly, the episode he wrote is Believers.
Oh,
so screw you, David Gerrold. But more of that over on the other feed eventually.
Yeah.
He also wrote an episode of Sliders, 3 episodes of fan series Star Trek New Voyages, and a couple of shorts at Comic-Con about, guess what? Tribbles. Yes.
Captain's Log, Stardate 5392.4. The Enterprise has been assigned to escort 2 robot grain ships to Sherman's planet, which has been struck by crop failures and famine.
This shipment of seed grain, Quinto triticale, is necessary to the survival of the colonists.
We are breaking course to Sherman's planet to investigate what appears to be a Klingon battle cruiser pursuing some kind of smaller ship. Observation may confirm a rumor that the Klingons have a new weapon, type so far unknown.
So you start with an unnecessarily long shot of the Enterprise in space with nothing happening.
It did feel a bit paddy, yeah. It's like, you've only got 20 minutes of cartoon and you're padding it out. Cheapskates.
Yeah. And then you have a captain's log, and the Enterprise is escorting 2 robot grain ships to Sherman's planet.
Oh, I love the design for the robot grain ships. And they're clearly Starfleet. They've got twin nacelles, but they kind of look like trucks. The idea of automation was to eliminate the need for life support systems and have more power for engines, which makes some sense.
Yeah, I mean, if it's only got grain on, do you know what I mean? If its job is just cargo, it's logical, isn't it?
And this design went over so well that they used it for the remastered original series episodes Charlie X, Court Martial and the Ultimate Computer. But they retconned it as Antares class, that are name-checked in those episodes, although in that case they had crews, so they're both automated and non-automated versions. They also crop up in Lower Decks Season 1's Terminal Provocations, where the Drukmani are trying to salvage one.
Unfortunately, they have been interrupted on their way to take the grain to Sherman's planet by a Klingon battlecruiser that might have a new weapon.
It's not named on screen, but it's called the IKS Divisor. Which doesn't sound that Klingon, but okay. But yeah, we got D7s in the animated series. And I think they look pretty spiffy.
They do.
I mean, alright, there's not a great deal of detail on them, but they still get lots of different angles. Basically, we finally get spaceship battles in Trek, which arguably we got in Balance of Terror, but not much of it. But here we definitely do, so...
Albeit quite static ones.
Well, yes, but it's still better than anything they pulled off in the original series.
they find that the Klingons are firing on a smaller ship, so Scotty is tasked with rescuing the pilot.
What do you think of the design of the scout ship?
It's all right.
It's all right, yeah. I thought it was a bit too Flash Gordon, personally. But at least it has twin nacelles, has a deflector dish. And they show damage on it when it's hit as well. Again, not something you got in the original series. So, yeah. I mean, 1 minute into the episode, we've already had 3 spaceship designs besides the Enterprise. Where was this show when I was a kid? Answer, the United States.
Yeah. So the Enterprise hails the Klingons and say, you've got to stop firing on that ship. And then it's like, Scotty, you've got to get the pilot. And Scotty seems to have a moustache that appears and goes away again.
Well, they're already reusing shots. And, of course, who was manning the transporter in the last show? It was Mr. Pringle's Mr. Kyle, wasn't it?
Oh, of course.
With his moustache. So whenever they show that particular angle where they're pulling on the sliders, they just reuse the footage of Kyle, despite the fact he's clearly got a moustache that Scotty doesn't have yet. Yes.
And then you have a red alert. And
yeah, that's a weird red alert sound, isn't it?
Sounds odd.
It reminded me of Kentucky Fried Movie, with that guy in the corridor that's just speaking to a megaphone.
I mean, you probably find that was James Doohan making a red alert sound.
He could have, yeah, that was how he got his extra money for this episode.
Being the red alert.
Oh, really? I could do that job for you. Oh, really? Really? You could do all the doors as well?
Probably. So this new weapon has a field effect. It projects a stasis field and it paralyses the ship. But it's not just that. It's the weapons are all disabled as well. Uhura makes a joke that, maybe we should just throw rocks at them.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Uhura making jokes now. Awesome.
Spock remarks that the energy drain on the ship must be huge. Because things are no longer working, the robot ships are drifting. But somehow they can still control them, which I don't understand.
Right, so it's the weapon systems and the propulsion systems are down, but obviously not the remote control systems.
Okay. Right. And so they're going to use the grain ships to ram the Klingon ship.
Prepare for ramming speed!
And then you meet Koloth, except it doesn't sound like Koloth.
It doesn't sound like Koloth because he's not voiced by William Campbell, sadly, but by guess who? James Doohan.
He doesn't sound anything like him.
No, not even slightly. He didn't even bother to do an impression. I mean, look, at least he looks vaguely like him. He looks a little like he's put on a bit of weight or something, but he's got the same goatee at least. But suddenly the Klingons are wearing pink and purple rather improbably.
Yes.
It is a warrior's colour, pink.
They project the field again and attack the ship, but this time there's limited damage that they're doing to the ship now. But the pilot is Cyrano Jones.
Wow. Now, this is voiced by the same actor, Stanley Adams, who was in a lot of old shows, mostly westerns, but also Perry Mason and an episode of The Addams Family. Doesn't have an awful lot to do, though, is he? I mean, of the two, if you were going to get the voice actors back, I would have gone with Koloth, personally, but okay, they made that decision.
Yeah.
But there's that awful delivery by Shatner.
Think we know that man.
Yeah, he's found a way to shact even in animation. Good grief.
But the tribbles that Cyrano Jones has got with him are pink.
Yeah, because everything has to be pink in the animated series, apparently.
Yeah, that's just a very...
Oh, and did you spot the ensign in the transporter room that looked rather out of place?
No.
Okay, so apparently it was based on the likeness of David Gerald, who cheekily wrote himself into the episode.
Okay.
He's sort of weedy looking. It's very odd, and he doesn't really have a role to play other than Kirk says ensign. I think he tells him to accompany Cyrano Jones to the brig or something. I don't know, but anyway, it was just like, oh, you cheeky git. I suppose if I was writing an episode, I'd write myself in as well. But
Kirk points out there's a law against transporting harmful animals, and Jones says, no, they're not harmful. These ones don't reproduce. And then Kirk's like, how did you get away from K7? Which they just sort of fudge it.
Nice reference, though.
Yeah.
Well, at least they're doing continuity.
And then he introduces the Tribble Predator, which looks like fuck on earth. I
Okay, this is the Glommer guy, who are originally going to be vicious predators of people as well, with crew members going missing. They realised that was a bit full on for kids.
Yeah.
But Glommer's also cropped up in the Dangerous Animal Zoo in I Have No Bones Yet I Must Flee.
Moopsie.
Exactly. And in plush toy form in Castor Troy's bedroom in the one good episode of Picard, Nepenthe.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the greatest design, is it?
No, it isn't.
I like the sounds it makes, but yeah, it those four legs don't look like it could support its weight. Is the problem?
Yeah, it looks very, very peculiar.
Yes.
And then the Klingons have accused Cyrano Jones of ecological sabotage. And he sort of says, no, that's not true. But then Kirk says, look, there were 4 federal mandates and 47 local ones against you. So it says, you're confined. Then you've got McCoy checking the Tribbles and says that they're not pregnant, they're just really fat.
Mm.
And that's like, you used to get these T-shirts you could wear when you were pregnant saying, I'm not fat, I'm pregnant. I need one to wear at work sometimes that says, I'm not pregnant, I'm fat.
Oh.
I've got people asking me for when I'm going on maternity leave.
Well, tell them to F off, because that's not a question you should ask of anybody. That's outrageous.
Or when I'm stressed, I get bloated and I look pregnant. So I also have a beer belly. But when you combine the beer belly with the bloating...
Oh, that's the T-shirt to get there. I'm not pregnant, it's a beer belly. Screw you.
Fair enough. And then you have, I think it's Spock talking about the weapon and how it immobilises ships the Klingons have got. And so that's clearly part of their plan.
I mean, I like this. This is a good idea. The Klingons have got a new weapon and it's a bit scary, but it turns out the weapon has got its flaws, which is a good way out of it. It needs recharging, and the Vulcan points out that their target will be the remaining grain carrier to stop Kirk pulling off the same trick as he did earlier. I mean, at least that was a cunning plan by Kirk.
Yeah.
We'll give him points for that. There's also the question of why they want Cyrano Jones so badly. Scotty reports they transferred the grain from the damaged ship to the Enterprise, filling the bays and corridors with grain. We see another Tribble get glommered. The Klingons return, recharged, and Kirk plans on using the remaining Antares as a decoy, but the Klingons immobilise it straight off. So, Koloff's got some chops as well in this, which is good. Under fire from the D7, the grain silos get knocked over on the Enterprise and the Tribbles start feasting themselves. Klingons flee without firing their stasis weapon, but Spock works out the combination of their extra cargo and towing the grain ship will rob them of power, because mass in zero-G is a problem somehow.
Don't understand that.
Yeah, it makes no sense. I mean, all right, having a tractor beam on the grain thing, that is going to drain their power.
Yeah.
But just because they've got extra weight in the ship isn't going to make any difference
when
whatsoever.
There's no gravity.
Anyway, he starts suggesting throwing Tribbles at them, which is interesting. And ultimately, of course, what they did in Trouble with Tribbles, but there we go. Kirk has a go at Cyrano Jones for the fact his ship is full of Tribbles, which are growing fast. He should have beaten them straight to the brig at the first opportunity, but he didn't. They release the robot ship in readiness for combat, but they are immobilised. Kirk refuses to release Cyrano again. Captain now can't sit in his chair due to a massive Tribble. There's a sort of running joke of him evicting larger and larger Tribbles as the episode goes on, which is rather milk for humour purposes, but this is a kids' show, of course. As the Klingons prepare to board to the accompaniment of terrible comic music, Tribbles invade. Having been beamed over. And yes, it is a repeat of the same tactic they used before, but at least we see inside the Klingon ship.
Yeah.
This is the first time that's happened. And I like the design. It seems to be green rather than pink, which is good. And it looks vaguely Klingon-y. I'm up for that. Korax, Koloff's second in command from the Trouble of Tribbles, is seen and speaks. Guess who voices him? Yeah. It turns out the Glommer was genetically developed by the Klingons to keep the Tribbles at bay, and they want Jones for having stolen it. So Kirk returns it, and that kind of solves the problem, basically. Obviously, Cyrano doesn't want to return it, but then he's told, well, it's going back one way or the other, with you if necessary, so he gives it up. Kirk concludes the new Klingon weapon isn't all that, given the recharge time and the vulnerability of the D7 whilst using it. And the Tribble in the Klingon's engine room is so big that the Glommer, rather than eating it, just pegs it in very Scooby-Doo fashion.
Very, yeah.
Koloff disruptors the huge beastie, but then it just becomes loads of smaller ones, because that's a thing with these new Tribbles, is that they're like colonies of smaller Tribbles. Doesn't seem like it would work biologically, but anyway.
Again, it just makes me think of Muppet Man.
Yes. And then there's another one that Kirk thought that McCoy hadn't administered the whatever it is to, and that all splits into Tribbles and covers him just as in Trouble with Tribbles.
Except that they're all pink rather than more normal.
But it's kind of like they trace the cells from Trouble with Tribble, except for that they don't go bouncing off his head, sadly. And then thought, right, rather than doing these brown, we're going to do them pink because this is a kid's show. Okay.
They're the exact colour of that hideous pink medicine I used to have as a child.
Strawberry flavour?
Yeah, it was supposed to be. It was horrible.
Okay,
though.
these are strawberry flavoured Tribbles then.
Okay.
So, cannon or balls?
Rock on, Tommy, you'll do for me.
Well, it's got space battles, so you know I'm already happy.
Yeah.
The Glommer design is a bit hokey, but it's canon, because it's a canon as Picard is anyway. Not sure if that's a good thing. It is pretty much a retread of the Trouble with Tribbles, and that was going to be a season 3 story that originally this was going to be anyway. So it has to be canon, really, doesn't it? Because the only reason it wasn't shown in season 3 was Fred Freiberger, who was a git, so...
Yeah, I'm not a fan of all the pink.
You've got to get used to that, I'm afraid. There's going to be a lot more as well.
I think particularly because we know what colour Tribbles are, and it's not that.
Well, I can't see why Tribbles can't be different colours, and these are, modified Tribbles at that. So
okay, so genetically modifying them made them pink.
Apparently, yes. He used a bit of candy floss or something in the process.
Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, mostly it's amusing. It's silly. Yeah. It's amusingly silly.
It's generally regarded as one of the best episodes of the animated series, and it, as I say, it's really close to an original series episode anyway. So I don't think we can claim any problems with this one.
No, as I said. Not really. The slow start, and there's a space battle where one sort of flamey bit spends absolutely fucking ages reaching its target.
The photon torpedoes are balls of flame in this for some reason, which is a bit odd. And yes, they do travel for quite a while.
But I mean, they're minor flaws in what's otherwise a fun, silly episode, really.
Yeah. We've heard from Jeffrey Mark Hyman. This was delightfully silly. I hope to hear more of Scotty's annoyed muttering in the future. Yes, he was. Not swearing, but coming close. And speaking of the future, did the Strange New Worlds episode A Quality of Mercy borrow the idea of Kirk using remotely controlled automated ships as a desperate gambit? That's the one where they remake Balance of Terror.
Oh, okay.
And Kirk produces a fleet that the Romulans don't recognise isn't actually a fleet, but just a load of spares, basically. Yeah, maybe. Maybe there's a connection. Don't know. We've heard from the Llama God.
Longest log, Fixie Courier, Care, Fixie Noir. The Enterprise finds herself stuffed with pink, hairy balls. Now, last time I did say one of the benefits of the episode that we covered was that being animated and shorter runtime, it was able to trim the fat off and just get straight to the point and deliver an engaging, interesting, and fast-moving story. The story of this episode can basically be boiled down to there's a chase, there's Klingons, there's Tribbles on board, then there aren't Tribbles on board, the Klingons have them instead. And that's it, actually. This episode is not so much trimmed to the fat, it's trimmed to the marrow, really. Beyond that, there is so very, very little of this story that it's actually slightly painful to watch. As with everyone else, I'm sure. I was looking forward to having another Tribble-centric episode of Star Trek, given that The Trouble with Tribbles and Trials and Tribulations are two of the best episodes of Star Trek and Deep Space Nine. So yeah, more Tribbles please. And there just isn't as much to it, this one, unfortunately. There's a couple of new ideas, kind of, but also not really. The idea that the Tribbles no longer reproduce massively, but they are in fact just growing in size, but then they're not growing in size, they're actually just colonies. That's just reproducing, isn't it? That's a bit of a strange thing, really. I guess they're just clumped for better organisation. So yeah, that's a bit of an odd one. But the whole thing is just so slow and so little actually happens in it. At the start of the episode, there's some very, very slow, long shots of the ships. And it's almost 2 minutes in until we actually get anything, and then the Enterprise doesn't come to the rescue until 3.5 minutes in. And by the time the Enterprise gets caught in the Klingon stasis field, that's 4.5 minutes in, and there's not a lot happening. There's just ships flying around. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I do love spaceships flying around, but this is just slower and there's not a lot going on because, of course, that's the style of animation. And yeah, there's just not a lot happening in the episode. There's just so very little to it, unfortunately. I think they're really relying on the fact that everyone remembers Tribbles as being really funny and engaging, and this episode just isn't, and I'm sorry. Especially given that it takes 8 minutes into the episode, this is a whole third of the way through, for us to actually see the Tribbles. So yeah. Yes, they introduced the idea of the Glommer as well. The Klingons have engineered something that can actually hunt Tribbles, but it's a typical cartoon creature from the 1970s. It's not particularly interesting to look at. It's just a little bit wacky, really. I suppose on the plus side, there is some interest in the fact that they have automated ships then delivering the grain, which is interesting and begs the question, why don't we see it again? Because they're clearly very susceptible to being attacked, just like we see here. But the whole idea of using automated ships as part of a diversionary tactic is something that will be revisited in Strange New Worlds. And it adds a little bit of interest, I guess, but there's not a lot. The big question this episode really poses is, why do they colour Tribbles pink? I mean, I know you mentioned last episode about the colouring choices made, but pink hairy balls on the Enterprise, giant pink hairy balls resting on the captain's chair. Tell me something that isn't new. Anyway, I think that's what I have to say about this one, really. It's not as interesting as it could be, not particularly funny, and yeah, at least on the plus side, it's still only 24 minutes long, so at least even if it's not interesting, it's over quickly. So yeah, so let's just see what the next one's like, shall we? Let's just see. But as ever, I will be interested to find out whether anyone else enjoyed this more than I did. I hope that nobody else is overrun and choking on pink hairy balls, and until next time, glory to you and your cast.
Yeah, big gay balls. I mean, that's pretty much the episode title, isn't it, really?
Okay. Well, I keep Tumblr happy anyway.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it as much. I have 2 spaceship battles for me. That's well above anything the original series managed. So, but yeah, clumped Tribbles.
Yeah. And surely that is reproducing, or maybe it's the same number. They just happen to gather together in.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? So they start as individual ones, then they eat loads and get bigger, and then they become lots. Doesn't make any sense, really, does it? Because if there were colonies, they'd start out as loads of little ones, making up a bigger one. Yeah. Surely. Anyway, let's not overthink this. It's a kiddies animation. Let's find out what the Purry thought.
Hello, Orgs. Purry here to talk about more Tribbles, more Troubles. And yes, quite entertainingly, we have a sequel to a prior episode. Now, it's not that TOS never referred to itself. We noticed a couple of times in that recent watch through we did that they did actually refer to prior episodes. But this one's almost a direct sequel. We do have Cyrano Jones returning. Now, as always, in this again, I'm sure you'll recognise some animated shots from Beyond the Farthest Star turning up again, just, the sort of generic brig shot. I told you you'd see those, and again, musical cues as well. I quite like the fact that we get an attempt at a space battle. I know it's not brilliantly animated. It's quite often ships shown in exactly the same aspect, sort of slightly off the bow or something, almost like there's a sort of cardboard cutout being dragged across the screen. But I appreciate the effort to try and make kind of an exciting space battle. And indeed, one of the notable things that I thought in it was that Kirk actually holds his fire until the Klingons fire at him. And the Klingons have a weird new weapon which kind of goes nowhere. It's there for some drama purposes. We do get some other new spaceships as well. We get those little cargo containers, because again, it's following up. It's not Quadrotriticale, it's something else. They've sort of taken it's like better Quadrotriticale, and of course we have Tribbles roaming about, and that's part of the fun. Is again, they're meant to be safe Tribbles, but they've escaped. Grains falling everywhere. I don't know why. Well, I suppose yes, they did say why they weren't towing the cargo ship was because it uses power, but yes, the in general you have them trying to outsmart the Klingons while dealing with Tribble infestation. Only these Tribbles have been genetically tweaked so they now get fat, although actually what they are is one Tribble full of hundreds and hundreds of little Tribbles. Entertaining enough. Like I said, it's not complex plot-wise. I don't think we're ever going to see anything particularly complex in the animated series. It doesn't rehash the trouble with Tribbles exactly. What it does do occasionally, I think the trap it falls into near the end is almost, and way back in the 70s, stuff I criticised telly for now, it's almost trying to have similar moments, particularly in that seeing your Kirk covered in Tribbles at the end of it, and I know it does the when will I learn, but and the Tribble in his seat and that sort of thing, you do feel that someone was like, oh, do that again, do the bit again from The Trouble with Tribbles. That said, we get to see the inside of the Klingon ship. Again, stuff they can do in animation. They just have to draw one background. I think we do almost get some Scooby-Doo style repeating background running when the Klingons are going through the ship. But I did quite like the one that really did make me chortle was when the Klingons, there's the giant Tribble, their Klingon, the Tribble-eating creature, which was quite funny in itself. Funny-looking thing for all that. It seemed, when you think about it, it's quite funny, but it's like eating a Tribble alive, I know it's all animals, but kind of a bit weird. But yeah, when they sort of says blast this, and he shoots it and it explodes into 100 Tribbles, and it's don't do that again. That's some quite fun. Again, maybe I'm easily entertained, but I found that quite funny. But yeah, overall, entertaining bit of fluff. I know it did try for a bit of drama with the battle, but really this is entertaining fluff. Actually, see for your Saturday morning cartoon, Trek, if you're thinking of it in the context of that as a cartoon for kids, this is ideal. Beyond the Farthest Star was maybe a bit too cerebral for your bog standard sugar-addled, 6-year-old or 7-year-old, but this would be right up the street. The spaceship's going pew-pew, there's funny Tribbles running around, that's got everything for your Saturday morning cartoon. Maybe not the high-depth entertainment that intellectuals such as ourselves are most accustomed to, but I think we can bring ourselves down to that occasion. So yeah, I had fun with that. So once again, thanks for doing this. I always look forward to the podcast, and I hope to feedback in the next one. But until then, keep up the good work, and bye for now.
Bye! Yeah, it is a direct sequel, and it does rehash a lot of the moments, you're right, if not quite a bit of the plot, to be brutally honest. Certainly, the beaming across of the Tribbles. It's like, how did the Klingons not see that coming? And they do say, oh, he did it to us again. It's like, well, more fool you for not having your shields up, you twits.
Yes.
But never mind.
But then maybe that's the point, though, in a way, is that they kind of don't learn because they're interested in wanting to have a fight, and that's why they don't have their shields up.
Because they have to drop them to fire, obviously.
So therefore, it's kind of... That's what you get for being all attacky. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
Vaguely.
It's Quintro Triticale.
So it's the 5.
Yes. Right.
Before it was Quattro, because Triticale, or whatever it's called, is a real thing.
Yeah.
Quattro was made up for
Quadro,
trouble.
Yeah.
That's how they're pronouncing it. It's Quattro, as in 4. They pronounce it Quadro, because Americans pronounce T's like D's. So it's Quattro, like 4.
Spelt Quadro, actually.
It should be Quattro, because that's 4.
Wasn't Quattro some sort of drink?
Quattro!
Well, the Susie Quattro, of course.
Was she the 4th Susie?
Yeah, I mean, Susie Quintro would clearly have been even better, but, we never got to see her. But for me, the worst rehash cheapness of this is the reuse of the Mr. Kyle shot. I mean, surely they could have Tippexed out the moustache or something. Oh, it was just so cheap and nasty, but hey, that is kind of this cartoon, unfortunately.
It is, but then you think about the way they drew Cyrano Jones. He's instantly recognisable.
He is. They made a good job on him, didn't they? Although he barely moves, to be frank.
Yeah.
There's like 2 views of him, straight on and side on, and that's it.
Yeah, but you know straight away who it is.
Yeah, you do. It's mostly the coat, I think, but yes. Anyways, thank you to everybody who's fed back.
Thank you.
The next episode we cover on Friday the 4th of July, there's some significance about that date, I'm sure, is the Infinite Vulcan. And things are going to get very odd, just to warn you.
Oh, is this the one?
That's the one, yes. And then next week, on Monday, which I know is very unusual, but somebody's going away on holiday.
Yep.
We're covering Midnight on the Firing Line over in our Borgcast Galactica feed. Until then, take care. Cheery bye.
Bye, bye.
Theme for Star Trek The Animated Series was written by Ray Ellis and Norm Prescott.
Any music used in this podcast is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
We have a Facebook group which you're welcome to join.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Find us on Blue Sky at broadcastammo.bsky.social
and revorg.bsky.social.
Shut it down!